All right, let's get to some college football because I am fascinated. I've never been, and you know this, I have never been a fan of an expanded college football playoff for a lot of reasons. One, I think Dabo Swinney was right a couple of years ago when he said we're putting teams into the playoff that really don't have a chance to win a national championship. But it's not about that. It's a TV show. So if we're going to have a better TV show, I am all about this time of the year because maybe I might be expanding it too much, but I've got 23 teams today on what is today, October 16th, the exact midpoint of the month of October. I have 23 teams that realistically, if they take care of their own business, have a chance to be in the college football playoff today. There's zero chance we would have that in a 4-team playoff. So in that case, that's a win, no?
Who's what would you say is like at the bottom of that list? Is the bottom of that list BYU?
I mean, right now I think they're the best team in the Big 12. So, I mean, I don't really have them ranked 1 through 23, but I've got 3 Big 12 teams that I believe are in the hunt: BYU, Iowa State, and Kansas State. I've got 4 ACC teams, even though I don't believe Pitt's good enough. I'm not sure SMU is good enough to be in the playoff, but they're on the list because Pitt hasn't lost a game yet, and SMU's schedule remaining looks like, man, they could end up 11-1. I've got 5 teams from the Big Ten that are on my list. I've got 7.
Ooh, who's your 5? Who's the 5th?
I don't think Indiana and Illinois are all that great, but they're on the list based on record. Because I think, but at the end of the day, the number one thing that matters is your record.
I can rock with that. That's, it works differently, and I like that the playoff has created these situations where an Indiana, an Illinois, an SMU, a Pitt, these teams that would feel in a 4-team format that they have no chance to be able to crack the top 4, even if they were to win their conference, then, I mean, you at least have that opportunity to be able to say, like, can they get to the conference title game and give themselves a 1-game opportunity to play their way in? Absolutely. And so that is expanded in a way that the people who created the College Football Playoff Invitational did guarantee that there would be more teams that were playing for a shot at the playoff in terms of a technicality. That is 100% still there. It is just given everything that we have seen from college football this season. It was the part of your statement right there where it was like, if they handle their business the rest of their way, because, I mean, frankly, we have seen more examples than not, both in either outright upsets or near upsets, that even the teams with the most talent in the country are not a lock to handle their business. We get into the grind of this season. We continue to see attrition left and right. And so that will potentially make your list even longer if we continue to pile up some of these losses, some of them being unexpected losses.
So let me ask you this. What happens to Georgia, who has 1 loss now? What happens to Georgia if they lose at Texas?
Their big opportunity to sort of like hang on in the fight, to kick out somebody else who's got a shot at this, are going to come after that when they play both Ole Miss and Tennessee in back-to-back weeks in mid-November. That would be Georgia playing its way back in. I mean, we did this song and dance with Nick Saban teams, especially the year when they lost to Hugh Freeze and Ole Miss back-to-back years. It was like they would lose to Ole Miss in early October, and then they would just rally. And not only would they rally, but they would come back with a tour de force of just like laying haymakers on people. If Georgia loses against Texas, which obviously is not crazy, they're a 3.5-point underdog. Georgia and Texas are 2 of the most talented teams in the country. Everyone's known that since July, and everyone still believes it here in October. But if Georgia loses that game, they are not out because they do have those opportunities against both Ole Miss and Tennessee, regardless of sort of where those teams are. I think that they would still be something that would be counted in the Bulldogs' favor in terms of the general at-large conversation. But I do think a loss at Texas would make it very difficult to be able to remain in the SEC championship conversation, just because there are some other paths that are a little bit more manageable and don't include those head-to-heads against other contenders like what the Bulldogs have.
There's no question. Alabama's got one conference loss. I know that Alabama's got Tennessee left on their schedule. Who else does Alabama have within the league that could beat them?
See, we're Alabama. All right, so Alabama has LSU left, and they got Tennessee this weekend, and then they've got LSU. Tennessee and LSU are both road games. And Jalen Milroe on the road has been a thing and something that I've definitely got my eye on. But I think that Alabama, with the head-to-head win against Georgia, still has an inroad. I think Texas A&M, which is already off to a 3-0 start in conference play, and really just has like LSU and Texas left. They've got the schedule scenario. Ole Miss had a schedule scenario until they screwed it up with 2 conference losses.
Yep.
So now the Aggies have stepped into that kind of SMU-like position where if they just handle their business and maybe win the one really big one, then you're going to be able to put yourself in. That's why for Georgia, losing at Texas on Saturday does not eliminate them from the playoff as much as it makes it very difficult to make it to the SEC title game.
Right, but they couldn't lose another game. I don't care who you are. It's going to be really hard to make the playoff with 3 losses.
I'm not going to call that until we get to November, just to get an idea of what it looks like, because I don't know if you've heard this about the college football playoff invitational.
Yeah.
You got to put 12 teams in there, and if everybody's got 3 losses, the 3-loss team is going to end up getting in.
All right, so let me ask you this question. This is what I want to see more than anything else in college football this year, Chip Patterson. I want Army, Navy to be for a playoff spot. It can happen.
Well, when they play each other, if you're talking about America's game on CBS, America's Most Watched Network, the Network of Stars, the playoff already would have been announced. You wanted them to play the week before in the American Athletic Conference Championship game, setting up a potential. Oh yeah, I've already gamed this out.
I totally forgot that. I totally forgot they would have to play ahead of time. That would be the worst thing ever.
No, they would play twice.
Yeah, but that would diminish the Army-Navy game.
No, if you believe that the Army-Navy game, as it is constructed, is ever going to be diminished in the eyes of those 2 schools, I think they play in the American Athletic Conference Championship game, and the winner will have a chance to make the college football playoff, likely competing with the winner of Boise State UNLV. That is the best drama that we could have going into Selection Sunday on a day that will probably be lacking with drama and a lot of fabricated seeding disputes based on who does and doesn't want to play other teams.
Undefeated Army or Navy makes the playoff. When they announce the playoff, because in my scenario, Army and Navy both beat Notre Dame.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you on that. I'll tell you what I've been trying to speak into existence. I like BYU. I'd like BYU in the college football playoff. 40 years since the 1984 title.
When they beat 6-5 Michigan in the title game.
I think that this, you could make me like the college football playoff a little bit more if BYU is in the very first edition of it. It's what I've got. They made me fill out my project the 12 for CBSSports.com, and I got 2 teams from the Big 12 with BYU making it as an at-large, just due to what I project is going to be a big win count. I've got 2 teams from the ACC making it, both Clemson and Miami. Clemson with the bye, Miami getting in on an at-large. I really struggled to find anything beyond. I mean, Adam, I love the Big Ten Conference.
Right, absolutely.
But
who doesn't?
I think we got a little bit of an issue when it comes to getting more than 3 teams up in there. And once we deal with the general fallout for the teams, 4, 5, and 6, Indiana, that's going to be the one that I think is going to be really starting to sweat it. And if so, it is going to be really disappointing, but I could absolutely see Indiana getting strength of scheduled out on Selection Sunday.
Sure.
So I've got Indiana and Notre Dame as my first two teams out. I got 3 teams in from the Big Ten, and I got 4 teams in from the SEC. And then I've got, of course, our group of 5 representatives, which I believe I picked as Boise State.
That would be a good playoff. That would be a fun playoff. And that would explain why the Big Ten wants 4 guaranteed spots. Look, real quick, Penn State's win at USC, I believe, saved Penn State from being in a precarious position because they're in a difficult spot of the schedule for them. But winning that game gives them some leeway, and I think we're going to see Penn State in the playoff. Right now, Oregon's clearly number 1. But I love the fact that Dan Lanning admitted after the fact that he knew exactly what he was doing by putting the 12th player on the field. I don't know that there's a remedy for that other than a defensive penalty of that nature simply puts the time back on the clock. I don't know. I don't know if you can have a remedy for that at all. There might not be one.
Yeah, I mean, the greatest point that I made coming out of that was somebody who said defensive coordinators know every corner of the rule book. Like as a general rule, nobody knows the rule book inefficiencies more than a defensive coordinator. You think about Bill Belichick.
Yes.
You think about, like Nick Saban. You think about all these coaches that who thinks of this stuff? Like offensive coordinators get all the glamour because they sit there with the chalk and they draw up all these crazy plays. But that little sneaky move right there, that's somebody pointed that out. They're like, that's a defensive coordinator move right there. Somebody who's thought of absolutely everything possible and tried to come up with a way to stop it.
Chip Patterson, there is no way to stop you. My man, I appreciate your time at Chip_Patterson, Cover 3 Podcast, CBSSports.com. Sir, we will talk again next week.
Hey, sounds good. Y'all be well.